We're finishing the Sikha, the speech that the Rebbe gave in the end of 1991. It was Tafshin Nun Beit about this week's Torah portion and its connection to the Mashiach. And the Rebbe stressed that the connection between the story of this week's Torah portion and the Haftorah. The Haftorah is the portion, excuse me, that's read usually from the prophets, but not always. Next week it's going to be from the Book of Kings. That it's usually has something to do with the regular Torah portion that's read, right? We read the Torah portion. You call 7 people up to read from the Torah. And then there's another short portion that they tack on the end, which is called the Haftorah. And usually it's similar as a similar subject or point that the Torah portion did. Well, this week it seems to be the opposite. The Torah portion is talking about Yehuda begging to Yosef. Yosef is the king of the world, and Yehuda is a virtual nothing. He's starving, he has no food. He has no power, and Yosef, he's the king. And that's the Torah portion. The Haftorah portion is talking about how Yehuda will be the king, talking about the Mashiach. Mashiach is going to be the king. It says David is going to rule over them. He'll be the king over them. He'll be the ruler over them. And so how do we see this? What is Yehuda? He's in the Torah portion, he's the lowest of the low. And in the Haftorah, the portion for the prophets, he's talking about he's the highest of the high. So how does the Rebbe explain it? Because in this week's Torah portion, we see that Yehuda demonstrates something that Yosef does not have. That's even higher than being a king. And what is that? He demonstrates courage, bravery, defiance. Yehuda actually defies Yosef and the whole entire regime of Egypt, notwithstanding the fact that he needs Yosef. He's first of all, he's got all the food in the world, and secondly, Yosef took the youngest brother into captivity, so he needs Yosef to free him. He can't free him on his own. And nevertheless, he demonstrates this tremendous courage and heroism and power, strength. Says the Rebbe, this power of defiance for the sake of the truth, this is the whole essence of what's going to save the world, to bring Mashiach. There's so much, falseness in the world. So much, error, mistaken. People don't know who they are. They don't know what the purpose of the world is. All the religions in the world, all of them, without exception, are all false. They're all based on false premises. But they're the ones that are ruling. In order to bring Mashiach that's going to really educate and enlighten all of mankind to leave their successes and things like that, and think only about the truth, is you have to have tremendous fortitude, the bravery that Yehuda had. Of course, it has to be for the truth. You have to be knowing what you're. So that was a situation back there with Yehuda. Yehuda defied Yosef. He didn't know that Yosef was his brother. He defied him. Yosef in those days, he had more power than all the governments and the church and all these other things. And the United Nations. Yosef was really a king that could do anything he wanted to. So if Yosef had the power to stand for the truth with such bravery as we certainly have the power. The Rebbe says that Yosef, we have to remember, he was approaching, Yehuda was approaching Yosef. If I said Yosef, I meant Yehuda was approaching Yosef. Yehuda, the power of Yehuda. Yehuda was the one that was demonstrating the power, right? He was the one that was demonstrating the courage. But Yehuda was coming close to Yosef. Yehuda needed the blessing from Yosef. He needed the approval of Yosef, the agreement of Yosef. So Yehuda, he's the one that's going to bring the Mashiach, but he needs the power from Yosef. So says the Rebbe, Al Pianal, according to this, Yuvan, we did this yesterday, but let's do it. Yuvan, we can understand the teaching from Yigashal of Yehuda as regarding to our generation, Kufotenu, and our time, our period. Because we are standing immediately before the total redemption of the Jewish people and the whole entire world. Notwithstanding the bravery, the courage, the powerful stand of Yehuda in his time, standing against Yosef and the whole country, and Mordechai in his time, standing against Achashverosh and Haman, and the Jews in all the generations, there were always limitations from the outside, from the nations, the Gentiles, and their decrees on the Jewish people. Rahman Islam, God have mercy, it was and it should not be anymore in the future. The Jewish people did not have the freedom to conduct themselves in Kolatokev Ubalabatiot and to be the rulers. The Jews couldn't simply do what they wanted to, right? In Russia, for instance, just in communist Russia, that was like maybe the most exaggerated example in the world. I mean, the Chabad Hasidim, they couldn't make minions. You couldn't make a minion. You couldn't have a gathering of more than 2 or 3 people together, unless it was a family affair. But for any sort of an idealistic reason, you couldn't have a meeting unless it was permitted by the government. It had to be certified by the government. If it was in order to learn the mathematics or something like that, then you could do it. If it was in order to have a party, a birthday party, then you could do it. But to learn Torah, to pray to God, no way. You weren't allowed to do it. So you weren't allowed simply to be free to do what you wanted to. The Chabad Hasidim, they did make minions, but it was with self-sacrifice. Which is not the case in our generation. Nowadays, we see Roy Bapol, especially after the Iron Curtain fell. We see there aren't all these preventions like there were before. Not only that, the non-Jews allow the Jews, the Gentiles allow the Jews to do what they want, and even more, they even help them. We said this yesterday. Just like it was back then in Egypt, when Yosef and his brothers were in Egypt for a short period of time, they let the Jews live in the place called Goshen, and they actually took complete control over that place. It's Yerbuv, and everyone benefited, like we see in many, many places. Whether in this land, in America, which is called the Malchut Shel Chesed, it's called the Rulership of Kindness. Jewish people can do whatever they want to, right? If you can convince them this is our religion, it doesn't hurt anybody, you can do it. Even more, in communist Russia, no one circumcised their children. No one circumcised. Only the religious, really super crazy religious Jews circumcised their children. It was forbidden. You couldn't bring a moil into the house and do a religious ceremony. We're allowed to do it. You see so many Russian Jews come out, they don't have Jewish names. You ask a Russian, what's his name? If he says his name is Vitaly or something, what's your Hebrew name? He doesn't have one. It's a sign that he hasn't been circumcised. Thousands, tens of thousands. Who knows how many? They're not circumcised. Now in America, absolutely no problem whatsoever. No problem whatsoever to circumcise your children. No one. Once in a while, a group of Jews stands up and says that it's cruel, you shouldn't do it, it makes the child traumatic, but the government agrees. Alder says similarly in many countries in the world. And in the years after, recently, now the Rebbe speaking about 1991, we can see how that all the countries that before they had all sorts of limitations, for instance, Russia, all of a sudden they're allowing Jews to do whatever they want to. They can pray, they can. In Russia now there's Chabad houses all over. We talked about this. Exactly the opposite. Not only that the Jewish people are free to do what they want, but the country actually helps them to do Judaism. In addition to this, that the Jewish people are able to do in Torah and the commandments in their own homes. Not only that, we can see that in the last years, more and more it's easier to also influence other Jews in every single place, and in fact, to the ends of the world. Because the world, no Rak B'nai Israel, not only the Jewish people, even the non-Jews, they are now able to receive things of Judaism, Torah and the commandments, even the 7 Noahide commandments. And the Rebbe said, I spoke about this yesterday. It was a speech that the Rebbe gave, if I'm not mistaken, it was in 1986 or 85. 1 second. Sorry. That the Rebbe said in a speech that the reason that there's no response, usually when there's questions in Judaism, I mean, Judaism is very, 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 very complicated. There's a lot of laws and they affect every single aspect of life. And especially now in modern times, so there's questions and re-questions. Just a simple example, in the time of World War II, after World War II, there were thousands, tens of thousands of questions about women who they didn't know where their husbands were. They didn't know if their husbands were alive. And they wanted to marry. And they didn't know if they could marry or not. Big, very, very, very complicated problems that there were. And nowadays, with electricity, is electricity the same thing as fire? In the Torah, it says you can't light a fire or even throw a piece of wood into a fire. You're not allowed to increase a fire. The fire, you can't put out a fire. What about turning on a light? Is electricity, is that fire or is it not? And similarly, there's thousands and thousands of interesting questions. But interestingly enough, there's almost no questions and answers regarding the 7 Noahide commandments. The Jewish people have an obligation, it's not a commandment, but it's an obligation to try to educate the non-Jews, or at least to influence them regarding the 7 Noahide commandments. Every Jew is supposed to try in some way or another, whether it's informally or formally. The Rebbe said it should be more informally. There shouldn't be an actual thing, but nevertheless, to influence the non-Jews to do the 7 Noahide commandments. And through the generations, there's been great rabbis that must have been asked about this. Right? Why didn't they publish their answers? To the point where there's a lot of questions now. We don't know exactly what the answers are. What exactly is how many aspects of the Gentile's life is affected by the 7 Noahide commandments. You know, what is he allowed to do, what not? So the Rebbe said the reason there's no responsa is because up to now, said the Rebbe, it was dangerous. You couldn't go and speak against the church. You couldn't go out and say that Christianity is a big mistake. Who could say anything like that? The Christians, they could say Judaism is a mistake. That is no problem whatsoever, right? They can send the missionaries, even in Israel, the place is crawling with them like rodents, right? Missionaries all over the place. No, absolutely no problem. But for a Jew to say that Christianity is a lie, which is the truth, it's a lie. It really is a lie, and it's a big mistake, which it certainly is, and it's idolatry, which it also is, right? You couldn't say anything like that. But says the Rebbe, that used to be. Now it's different. Now the whole world, if you're saying it in a positive way, you're coming for a positive person, not just to knock the other guy down, but to educate him. And now there's no problem in the world. The only problem is us. Like we said before many times, that according to what the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe said, that we've already finished all the preparations for the future redemption, and now all we have to do is just draw this redemption in actual in the physical world. And this is already here, revealed the Eini Basar. I want to tell you a small story about myself. This might demonstrate. 2 nights ago, I came home and I lost my cellular phone. Right? You have to have a cellular phone. You have to have a cellular phone. It's like like a leg, or one of your eyes, or something. You have to have a cellular phone. You have to. Even though there's a lot of, especially religious Jews, that they don't have these, cellular phones with all these messages and things like that, and they get along fine. But anyway, cellular phone. You have to know what's going on, and people that invite me to places. Lost my cellular phone. So immediately I called it up, getting the phone, and the ring went to my car. Didn't ring. I'm looking around for the phone. I started to think, where was I? I went to a couple of weddings, and then I spoke to somebody, and I paid somebody a debt, and then I went. In my mind, I'm going through all these different places, and I'm starting to all of a sudden. Why doesn't anybody answer? I'm calling up, nobody answers. So I'm starting to blame people. Maybe this guy, if he took it, why doesn't he answer? Why doesn't he at least answer the phone? I said, there's people, they'll steal the phone, and there's other people that buy stolen stuff. They buy stolen material, and that encourages the thieves. How could it be such a thing? That's so terrible. I need my phone. And then, then I start to think to myself, no, maybe I can get along without the phone. Maybe I don't need a phone. Who needs it? Here I've already gone 4 or 5 hours, no phone. I sort of enjoy it. My mind is free. And I figure I'll call it in the morning. I'll see it in the morning. In the morning, I wake up and I say, you know what? I called the first thing in the morning. Nobody answers the phone. And I figured, okay, I'm just going to leave it today. I'm going to leave it. I'll do the whole day without a phone. It's not the end of the world. People, so what? People call me, they'll call me again. That's it. I've already resolved myself. I'm doing without a phone. I'm living without a phone. If I don't find it today, somebody doesn't return it to me or something like that, because it has my name on it and my home phone. So I said, okay, then tomorrow I'll go to the store. I'll get a new phone. They'll cancel my numbers, and I have the whole thing. But anyway, I went outside to go to my car. And suddenly I thought, 1 second, last night I remember I went over here in this corner over here and I bent down to do something. I look, oh, there's the phone. In other words, the phone was right there. All of these thoughts that I had and all of these blaming and thinking and this and the whole thing that I was occupied, my mind was occupied with all these ideas that all of a sudden became real, and it wasn't, and it don't have, and I'll get along without it. The fact of the matter was just right there. Why didn't I hear the ring? I don't know. Maybe the ring was quiet or something. It's the same thing here we're talking about. Godliness, pure God, it's everywhere. But we think it's not here. We don't see it because we don't see it. So we figure it's not here. We start blaming people. We start getting all emotional about things that just don't even exist. In any case, nowadays, there's no obstacles to doing what God wants. Since that, okay, says the Rebbe, without looking at all this, the fact that the Jewish people are brave, and they are even in the worst situations. But nevertheless, the fact of the matter is, even though that the non-Jews they're not making any problems for us and we're free, but still the fact is the redemption is not really, simply what we're talking about is that we should not have to ignore the darkness. It should be that we see godliness clearly. We can see exactly the opposite, right in front of our eyes. There still are always all these challenges. If there was really the true redemption, there wouldn't be all these challenges. So if so, the whole world, we can see that even though we have everything, we can do Torah, we can do commandments, but still the fact of the matter is that we're in Gullus, we're in exile. The Jewish people, they are like what's called an aguna, Rahman Hassan. Aguna means a woman whose husband went to a faraway place and nobody knows where he is. Acharei Erusin, they got engaged. She can't get married to anybody else. And her husband said, I just want to have one business deal I want to do over in in Chicago, he goes and he just doesn't, nobody knows where he is. That's the way it is with us. We Jewish people, we're engaged to God. God gave us the Torah. We know that it's true. Everything is all set. But the fact of the matter is that we're still waiting for the wedding. The husband is not, he hasn't come back. He's here somewhere. God is here, we're sure, but Mashiach is here. But now we have to just open up our eyes and see how that the whole world is demanding that every single Jew should be kavar b'mamud matzav shagula, should be in a situation of redemption. Every Jew should act as though there is nothing preventing us from doing Torah commandments, loving God, loving every Jew, loving the Torah. Act as though, because that's the fact, and the whole world knows it. We can even say, Shazeh Gufahu, this is the reason why we can see that the Jewish people are able to stand firmly also with also in situations where the Gentiles seem to rule. The only thing depends on their own will. Just take a simple example. Here we have the land of Israel, right? And we took the land, and we have this powerful army. We can do whatever we want. What do they want? They invite all these missionaries to come in. They give land away to the Arabs, our worst enemies. They give land away to them. There's all this licentious decadence, crazy parades they allow, they encourage in the land of Israel. Simply insane. And because we're now standing immediately in front of the redemption, so we see that we make our own problems for ourselves. Since we're with the David Abdi Nasi Le'amolam, the King David, the Mashiach, he will be the ruler forever, and the non-Jews will know that I am God. And therefore, that was in the Haftorah we just said. And therefore, this should be in our generation. This is a preparation that brings us immediately to the true redemption by means of the Mashiach. And to add on, that this is hinted at us what in this week's Torah portion by Yigash of Yehuda, that together with the power that Yehuda went close to Yosef. Yosef, he's the one that gave the power, the okay, the agreement to Yehuda. Who is the Yosef in our generation? The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. His name was Yosef. Not only is Yosef giving us our power for this generation, he already broke the Iron Curtain, right? The Rebbe said that the previous Rebbe sat in prison and he defied the whole entire communist regime. And when it was 1927 that he defied, they put him in prison, sentenced him to death. And miraculously, he was not only was he set free, they helped him to get out. They even gave some of his books, his library. They sent it with him. So we have the power from the Rebbe, but we also have a Yigash Alav, we also have the Mashiach, which I said last time that's the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the Mashiach. Now, there was people who wrote to me, said, how can you say Lubavitcher Rebbe is the Mashiach? I mean, what? Hey, you can't say a person is the Mashiach. I mean, Mashiach is just this idea. Well, there's the laws of the Rambam, which I sort of wanted to learn today, but we're not going to. But the Rambam, the Maimonides, he has this amazing book which has all 14 books which have all the laws of Judaism in it, and all the laws in the Torah, the temple, and everything. And right at the end, he says like this. What does he say? 1 second. Here, let's see where this is. Oh, here it is, 11th chapter. Here it is, 11th chapter. And you can look it up. Just look up Laws of Kings. Print it out, Laws of Kings. The Mashiach is going to come back. He's going to bring back all the laws of Judaism. He's going to bring back the kingship, king of Judaism like it was before. He's going to gather all the Jews together. He's going to return all the laws of the Torah. They'll be rebuilt the Holy Temple, etc. That's the goal of the Mashiach. Then he says, if there stands up, let me find where this is. And the Torah hints at it many times. In the prophecy of Bilam. Here is law number 4. If there stands up a king from the house of David, and he learns Torah, and he does the commandments, just like King David did, according to the written Torah, according to the oral Torah, and he forces all the Jews, tries to force all the Jews to do Torah and to strengthen Judaism, and he fights the war battles of God. He fights anything that tries to go against Judaism, right? By means of educating everybody. That's what it means. Then we can suppose that he is the Mashiach. In other words, what's Mashiach? Mashiach is going to have to be a human being that's going to have to come from the tribe of King David. He's going to have the qualities of being a king, a ruler. He's going to have to know the whole Torah, work at the Torah, do all the commandments, work at the commandments, try to convince all of the Jewish people to do all of the commandments and to learn the Torah. And he fights any forces which try to weaken this Judaism, any forces that try to weaken the adherence to Torah and the commandments, as you can suppose that person is the Mashiach. And not only that, he says, and any person who does not believe in this and wait for his arrival, he's denying all of the 14 books that I just wrote about all the laws of the Torah. So in other words, Mashiach is a very real thing, and in fact, it's the most real thing. This is the thing that every Jew, and in fact, every Gentile also should be waiting for. A person like Moses, a person like King David, that he's going to do not necessarily miracles. He's just going to gather all of the Jews together and convince them to be Jews. That's all. Convince them to do what it says in the Torah, the written Torah and the oral Torah and the Shulchan Aruch. If he's from the tribe of King David, and anyone who tries to do this, we can suppose that he's the Mashiach. His goal is to build the temple, bring all the Jews back to the land of Israel, and all the non-Jews will do only the 7 Noahide commandments. They'll drop all of their religions. So Mashiach is a real person. According to the Rambam, if the Mashiach dies, that does not disqualify him. Only if he's killed. It says killed because of his sins, like Bar Kochava or Bar Koziva. Anyway, the Rebbe is talking about reality over here. He's not talking about theory, and he's not talking about religion. He's talking about reality. Because the reality is that the world depends, it needs desperately that there should come this person, the Mashiach, and the Mashiach is going to educate everyone in the world. And the Rebbe has all the qualifications of Mashiach. If you have somebody else, that's also okay. Then the main thing with Mashiach is that we have to follow what he says. We have to follow his teachings. And that's what the purpose of these classes are. To let everyone know, as many people as possible, what the Mashiach is saying. Very simple. The Rebbe is saying Mashiach is already here. The Rebbe is saying that he's the Mashiach. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he gave the power. He's Yosef, and he's giving the power to the Mashiach to do his work. From this is understood that we can learn from this that we have to, Vayigash Yehuda, that we have to show strength, courage, heroism, assertiveness. Don't be afraid of anything, only of God alone. That's what it says, that Yehuda gave this power that every single Jew, because we have to know that the world cannot stop us from doing what we're supposed to, because the world was created for us. It was created for us to fix. We're supposed to fix the world and influence the world, not the other way around. So this will bring to David Avdi, we have this attitude, this will bring to David, my servant, he will be a leader for the Jews forever. This whole idea of Yigash Alav Yehuda in our generation is especially in Hey Tevis. Now, Hey Tevis, this was yesterday. What happened on Hey Tevis? There was, when the previous Rebbe passed away, so the previous Rebbe had two daughters. One of them married a very great man. His name was Shmario Grarye. And the other one married the Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he became the Rebbe. Everybody agreed. He became the Rebbe. He had amazing powers of prophecy, of understanding, etc. The other person was also a very great person, but he didn't have these qualities, how do you say, supernatural qualities of leadership and etc. Anyway, the son of this other this other one, the one who married the second daughter of the previous Rebbe, his son was very bitter, and he started taking books from the library of Chabad. Some of the books were worth $1 million. They were very rare books. And they discovered that he was taking these books. And they said, you have to return them. And he said, they're mine. The previous Rebbe passed away, and that's it. Chabad has now become just sort of this organization. And it's basically stopped. The how do you say, the business has to be divided up. That's all. Business didn't succeed, and we have to divide it up. The boss is dead, so that's it. Let's divide up all the properties and all of the. So it eventually came to court. They tried to bring it to a Jewish court. He refused. It came to a federal court. It was very, very tense, because essentially what it meant was, is the Rebbe the replacement for the previous Rebbe or not? Or is he just, the previous Rebbe died and Chabad died together with him? The federal court finally decided, without any doubt, that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was the leader of the Chabad movement. The Rebbe now is the replacement, that all of the possessions that the previous Rebbe had, they belong to the Hasidim, that the Rebbe himself belonged to the Hasidim, the previous Rebbe belonged to the Hasidim, and so the Rebbe also belongs to the Hasidim. The books cannot be private property of anybody. And that was the final decision. That's what happened on Hay Tavis. Hay Tavis, the non-Jews, the Gentiles, announced the judge was a very intelligent person. And he really understood very deeply. He studied the topic very, very deeply, and he really understood this whole idea of what Chabad is and what the books mean and what the Rebbe is and what a Rebbe is, and etc. And the books all came back. So this was a very big victory in the physical world for the Mashiach, right? Because the whole thing of Chabad is to bring Mashiach. Says the Rebbe, those books came back, but there's still a lot of books from the previous Rebbe and from his father, the fifth Rebbe of Chabad, that are still in Russia. And Putin does not want to release them from Russia. Even though Putin, he put them sort of on display in this private place, and you can go in and take pictures of them or whatever. So there is access to these books, not like it was previously. Nevertheless, we're still waiting for these books to be freed. It's very interesting because the previous Rebbe, wherever he would go, he would take his library with him, and it was a huge library. It was like crates and crates of, 20 crates filled with books. And he would take these books with him when he was, it's really quite amazing. Because the books, they are self-sacrifice of genius, holy authors. And they put all of their energy and their life into these books. And the books also are not just their energy and their life, but their discoveries. These people made spiritual discoveries and revelations and connections that's one of the reasons God gave the Torah, so that we would use it in order to make new ideas with new, I'd say, fresh ways of living our lives. Anyway, this, especially in these days, we can see that Russia, he said, changed its capital city. I don't know if it changed the capital city. I don't know the history that well. I know it changed the name. That Petersburg was called Leningrad, and they changed the name back to Petersburg. But he said that they changed back. Maybe Petersburg used to be the capital, and it became Moscow or something like that. Anyway, the Rebbe said that they changed the capital city. This is exactly the opposite of what it was in the time of the Alter Rebbe. Now we're seeing that the whole entire country of Russia is changing around. And what can each one do in order to bring back these books and bring the Mashiach? The answer is very simply, everybody, men, women, and children, should be an example and bring into their houses books, learning books, the holy books, books of Torah, filled with Torah ideas. And most important, your house should be filled with books, and you should learn the books. And since that all this is very, very easy to do, since that the whole entire, every week, we see that they're printing new books constantly, in addition to those that have already been printed, and they're reprinting books. And the main thing is therefore you can buy the books, and anyone buy the books, and especially to learn the books. Like it's known, the explanation of the previous Rebbe on that books have to be bought with money. It's very important to show the value of them, to the degree that even the Rebbe would order that some books price should be printed on the book to show it's printed. Like the saying of the rabbis, Asya Damagin, B'magin, Asya Damagin, B'magin, Magin Shabbat. He says a healing that's for free is worth nothing. Asya means like a doctor. The Magin, that he heals for free, healing that comes for free. Magin Shabbat, it's not worth anything. It's in Baba Kama. The Alakas Kama, how much more so that we need to, in words of Torah, the Torah brings healing to the world. That's the real healer. So therefore, in order to this, we should take a strong vow. And even more, you can order books to receive in the coming months. And that there should be, like it says, Frenumen, where it says Frenumeritin. I don't know. Anyway, the book should be ordered, and as soon as the books are printed, a sefer Makablim Oto Menuyim take of Miyad. Then, as soon as you order the book, you make an order in the future that new books that are printed, I want to receive new ones as well. Similarly, it's very proper to use the custom of the custom of the Jewish people to give books as a gift to others, including to even small children, that they should read in a happy way. May it be God's will. May it be God's will that by means of this, that each and every person will acquire new books, and this will speed up more and more what it says, Vayigashal of Yehuda, that the Pidyon Shabuim of Benjamin, just like Yehuda redeemed Benjamin that was taken into imprisonment by Yosef, Yehuda freed him. Also the same thing, we should free all those books that are stuck back there in Russia. Call us for him, Hanichtavim Sham, Rabosenu Nesienu, Chozim Lamakomo, that all the books that are written by the Rebbes should come back to their true place. Where is that? In Beis Rabbeinu Shabbat in 770, Gematria Paratzta, also the Gematria Beit Mashiach. It says Beit Mashiach. The Sham there, Mitzarfim, the Kolas for, and they would join all the other books. I understand that the book, the Chabad library in Brooklyn is one of the biggest libraries of Jewish books in the world. And someone told me, I don't know if this is true, there's all sorts of Jewish books, including Jewish books of heresy, heretical books. Some of them are worth a fortune, like Shabbatite Tzvi books and things like this, that they're all collected. They're collected. There's collections all over. Interesting. I understand the world. I don't know if anybody can go in and read it. I don't. Take them out immediately, and this will bring not only just the book should come back, but all of the sparks of holiness in the whole world. Immediately, mamash, really, all of the Jewish people, our children, our elders, our sons, our daughters, with the silver and gold with them, with all their properties, and that's including all the books and all the things that they've written, they'll come to the Holy Land, to Jerusalem, Ira Kodesh, to Hara Kodesh, to the Holy Mountain, to the Beit HaMikdash HaShlishi, to the Holy of Holies, that there will be found, there is the Even Shtia, what's called the foundation stone, and nothing will be changed from the time of the creation of the world. All of this will be immediately, the same God that created the world is the same God that's creating the world right now, and this will be revealed from the Holy Temple to the entire world, so the whole entire world will be filled with the awareness of God. And it all depends on our heroism and our assertiveness for Judaism, for the truth. And when that happens, then everything will change. God willing, we should take this lesson and really make use of it. Let's learn just the Yom Yom. Here we have the Yom Yom for today. Yom Yom Chabad. It says, know the God of your fathers. You should know the God of your fathers and serve him with a whole heart. You have to know God. It's a commandment to try to know the Creator as much as possible, deep in your mind, into the fact that God is creating you. And this will bring a certain type of love and awe and intimate relationship with your Creator who's creating you. That's the only God there is. Every sort of Torah knowledge and comprehension, even the most profound, must be expressed in avoda. Namely, any intellectual attainment, any comprehensions that you have, has to bring about an actual refinement and improvement of character traits. It has to be translated into an inward attachment to God, which is the whole thing of Hasidic. The Hasidic dictionary calls avodah. Avodah means service, but it also means to change yourself. So the whole essence then of Hasidut, of Judaism, of life, is to constantly be improving and evolving and widening your awareness of what God wants from you and how to improve yourself and the world around you. Let's see if we can get tomorrow here. How do we do this? Oh, 1 second. 1 minute. Oh, here it is today. Here's it always says today. No, wrong way. Here we go. This is tomorrow, Shabbos. Everybody after they die, so there's if they have a connection to the world. So this connection to the world has to be removed. But it's a personal connection. It's a deep thing. It's not like just taking off your shoes. It's your personality. So therefore, it says that there has to be what's called chibut hakever. There has to be the purgatory of the grave. Namely, the person is in the grave. It says he feels the worms. He feels this. I don't know. I'm not, I don't really dwell on these things too much. But it says that there is such a thing as chibut hakever, that the person feels the shaking of the grave, the unexpected, terrible things that happen to him after he dies. And so you want to avoid this? You want to avoid this? Say words of Torah, say words of Psalms for 1/6 of the day. 1/6 of the day, 4 hours. It's a lot. To merit, if you want to purify your soul so that you don't have what's called kaf hakela, then spend as much of the day saying Mishnah, Tanya, and Tilhim by heart. Kaf hakela. Kaf hakela is, it says that when a person dies, so he suddenly realizes that he's dead, but he still feels that he's alive. He's the same person as he was, just a couple of days ago. He was eating and whatever he was doing, and now he's dead. So it says it's like being thrown, like stepping into an elevator, and there's nothing there. Whoa, where's the floor? Or the other way around, just suddenly being flung up. You think on the first floor, and suddenly it flings you up. You find you're up on the 20th floor. Exactly what happens, I don't know. But the point is, if you want to avert these things, then it's by saying words of Torah and Tehillim for 4 hours of the day, and to spend as much time as you can saying Mishnah and Tanya, etc., by heart. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. A pleasant Shabbos. Don't think about going to hell. Just think about doing good things, and you'll find out that it's easier than you thought. Have a good day and a good Shabbos with Moshiach Now. See you, everyone, at 8:15 Sunday morning.